Hi guys, KO here. Welcome to Turmeric and Tequila, where we are working to inspire positive radical social evolution by uniting mission-driven humans. I am so excited about this conversation today. I'm welcoming Lisa Tahir to the TNT mic. She is promoting healing through therapy, podcasting, and fitness. She has an incredible book, The Cryon Effect, Healing Our Core Wounds Through Astrology, Empathy, and Self-Forgiveness. We get into all the things today, from quantum physics, where the mental turns to physical, and energy, and so many things just about like healing and getting to know ourselves. We dabble in core values. This is a really great conversation if you're looking to evolve, level up, especially as we get older. Be open-minded and just sharpen the edges as far as being a varsity human overall. Therapy is such an amazing thing, and Lisa is a phenomenal leader and coach and therapist in the business. So be sure to check her out. Enjoy this conversation and check us out on YouTube so you can see the video and her kitties, and check us out wherever you get your podcast. Cheers.
Welcome to Turmeric and Tequila with your host, Kristen Olson. Questioning a better way, one gracefully disruptive conversation at a time.
Welcome to Turmeric and Tequila. I am ultra excited today. I want to say a new friend, but you know when you sometimes meet people and you instantly kind of feel like old friends, or you know, like a human's just like, oh man, I really get this person. I feel like they see me and they understand and we walk similar paths. So I'm really excited to welcome Lisa Tahir to the TNT mic. She is a fellow podcaster. She's a promoter of healing through therapy, podcasting, and fitness. And we are going to talk about a lot today. She's an author. We had the luxury of spending a weekend together with some other amazing podcasters. So we got to do a lot of our podcasting love and that. And then we got to know our whole team as humans. And it was really cool to see how diverse everybody's backgrounds were. But Lisa and I had the fitness in common, and we, healing kind of came up, quantum physics kind of came up. So I'm like, we're going to get into all this. So there's so much to cover today, but without further ado, Lisa, welcome to TNT.
Kristen, thank you so much for having me on Turmeric and Tequila. I am so ecstatic to be here today with you and have this conversation.
Yes, we've got so much to cover. We even got to have some tequila in real life, which was really nice.
We did. That was such like a pivotal weekend for me in a positive way, meeting you and like learning from you and the other women on our team. Like, it helped my podcast. Like, I already had a passion for it, but it just ignited just to keep going and share these conversations, and how just awesome that is.
Thank you. And I echo those statements tenfold, because it's so cool that, I always say like arts and sports and like all the creative things that can just, there's such unity in that community. And it's cool to see how those things are such filters for like-minded people, and we get to further build out this community. So it's really cool to connect, because we otherwise would never have probably crossed paths if it wasn't for podcasting.
I know, it's awesome.
It is. Well, so you have such an amazing background. And I think, on Turmeric and Tequila, I always say God, universe, Madonna. I think, we're intentional humans. We try to like walk our intentional path, but I do think God, universe, Madonna sets us up for certain things in certain ways that we never could have planned or expected. So I really want you to talk about your background. Tell us a little about young Lisa, and kind of tell us how you got into your practice, how quantum physics came into it. Like, tell us about the journey, how it kind of wound you to where you are today.
No, I'd love to, Kristen, because we have a lot of overlap in our personal life journey and stories and who we are today as women. And for me, it started with fitness when I was 21, and I started working out with these guys at a local gym here in New Orleans. We all work together in the restaurant business. And I feel so fortunate to have had these really strong guys like take me under their wing and show me everything about the equipment, about how to use my body, exercise my muscles, that I never really experienced that intimidation that I hear a lot of people say. You walk in a gym and it's like, holy shit, what do I do with all this stuff? Yeah. And I just had so many people show me and teach me. And it was like an instant love for me to the weight room, especially. And at that same time at 21, I was in school to be a social worker at Tulane University. And I had just started therapy about a year before at age 20, because the household I grew up in, like I've learned many households, it wasn't it wasn't healthy emotionally. I always had what I needed physically and with resources, but there wasn't a lot of just love or affirmation that was freely given. I felt like I wasn't ever good enough. And, like turned to compensate through later on my work and even through fitness, doing 3 half Ironman triathlons.
Wow.
And, yeah, like for me, it was first of all, like, can you do this? And who do I have to become to do this? So that journey in itself was awesome. But I realized after doing three, this doesn't make me a better person than someone who doesn't. And it felt like it was something deeper, like my self esteem and value and worth, like still trying to iron out those pieces of how to feel really happy in our own skin. And so that's kind of a bit like, and that's like from age 20 to say mid 30s. And I've just always tried different stuff. Kristen, have you tried like just different modalities and things to help yourself feel better?
Yeah, and I really I want to know how at 20, because we're a more mature generation. Therapy is now kind of, it's, I wouldn't say it's a buzzword, but it's so much more socially acceptable. So my journey in trying some of like these quote unquote healing approaches really, like you, kind of happened around fitness when my body was breaking down. And then I started to notice some things. I'm like, yeah, healthy family environment for the most part, but like, man, we didn't really talk about this, or we didn't do this, or maybe these things that I considered like traumatic, but they didn't seem like trauma in my mind compared to other people's traumas.
Yes.
I started to be like, okay, we got to do something here. And the good thing about when you get to like a high competitive level, athletically, there's no gray area. So you have to do your nutrition, your stretching, if there's emotional stuff. And I think even in college, like we talked about like meditation. So there was some little sort of mindfulness around the mind and the body connection, but this didn't really happen till I was like 35-ish, maybe 30s, the early 30s to mid 30s, where I really started to do like therapy, intuitives, psychics, brain
Yes.
mapping. Unfortunately, my work led me to a lot of these like human optimization things. So it wasn't even me intentionally being like a varsity human. It was like God, universe, Madonna lining me up
Yes.
through my work, putting me into it. So how did you know even at 20, like to approach therapy? Like that's pretty impressive.
Well, as you've said a few times about the universe, God, Madonna, source energy,
Yeah.
bringing things into our lives. As I look back, I had two friends in my life that were both in therapy. They were a little bit older than me, and they suggested their therapist. Her name's Marilyn. And they're like, I really think you should go to Marilyn. And I felt so nervous, like to go talk about things like what I have to pay somebody to listen and all
Yeah.
that resistance that was in my own head about, I should be able to figure this out or aren't friends enough. And I kind of battled with that. Even my first few months working with Marilyn, like, shouldn't I be able to do this? And she helped me understand, Lisa, like, we learn through typically our families, our caretakers, and some people get all the skills they need to self manage their emotions, but most of us don't. And just like you're in school, this is kind of like being in school for your emotional health and well being. And it's not you paying me to care for you, like you're paying me for my skills that I've learned and share with you. But the care, like, you can't buy that. And I've learned
Yeah.
too, Kristen, being a therapist, the love I have for my clients,
Yeah.
it's not about the money, it's about the connection that two hearts make with each other. And
Mhm.
that's what was most transformative, was her really caring about my story and how to help me through depression and anxiety. And so I feel really blessed that those friends literally said, I think you should call this person. And then
Yeah.
that I did.
That's amazing that you had the humans around you that were like-minded, that they were kind of like so forward thinking and led to that journey. And then a beautiful point you just brought up is it's hard to find the right therapist, I think, because to me, like therapy is really became digestible when I called it like my mental fitness, because you go to the gym, you physically train,
It
and
is.
you kind of have that breakdown, and then your muscles get bigger, and you have the breakthrough. And the mental, I mean, that's the exact same thing. You learn more tools. It's just weird as a fitness human to be sitting there thinking I'm working out and not physically doing something. So it's hard for me to digest. But I like that you found a good therapist right away, because it's like finding a good coach. It's really hard. I mean, obviously you were young at 20, like, did you know right away that was the right person for you?
I did feel that. So I was very fortunate that it was like first time out to work with somebody that really I resonated with and vice versa. And to anyone listening, it can be challenging to find the right therapist for you. And I know I offer a 20-minute phone consultation that's free, just see, like,
Yeah.
do we jive? Like, does it fit? And I think a lot of practitioners do. And that's a great way to begin, to just get on the phone and see how you feel, and that you should always feel like you can be your authentic self, like you're not being judged, like you're being supported, listened to, seen, and you just kind of know that in your body. So trust how it feels when you start speaking to someone. And it's okay to stop and look for someone else if it doesn't feel right initially.
And that's such like intense advice. And I think as Americans, like our culture, we're disconnected from our feelings, or we diminish like just a gut feeling about stuff. But like you said before, like two hearts connecting, it's really powerful space, and it's very vulnerable space. So you really do need to find a really good therapist, because just like there's not great coaches out there's not great therapists. But on the flip side, when there's people like you that, like, I mean, so much of their soul is within it. It's like their business, but it's so much of like why they're here on this earth and what they're meant to do. And even if you're not exposed to therapy, as you said, I think you can feel that and be like, if you connect with someone or not.
Absolutely, you do. Just like with friends, just like, when you're out, you're in your day. And I know you talk about intuition, Kristen, and that's such an important piece that, don't override your intuition. And I think, especially as women, where we tend to put ourselves on the back burner for some good reasons, to serve, to caretake, yet take yourself off that back burner and bring you to the front and center if you can at some point every day, even just checking in, like, how am I doing? And sometimes like tears might come up, and let them flow. You might just be releasing something after you've been, really in service or taking care of others. You might need to just have an emotional release, and that's healthy, and not to be afraid of your feelings, because they're really beautiful instruments of guidance to lead us where to go and also where not to go. So listen to yourself.
That's so it's so true. We don't really talk about any of this. And this, I mean, had we known this in high school, it would have been deeply
I
impactful.
know, it would have been so wonderful, helpful for sure.
Yeah, for the journey, but all things are on time, which I still struggle to digest, because we want to control things, but we're learning to let that go. I did this, did that early therapy experience and healing, did that inspire your journey to get into therapy yourself in your own
Actually,
practice?
it did. I knew like, this is what I want to do with my life, is help people navigate their emotions, be a safe space to hear, to share in those journeys with people. Like, I love it. It's a passion, and it definitely keeps me in good self-care, because there was a time where I was seeing too many clients with traumatic issues like sexual abuse and trauma, and I got really depressed, and I learned I had to diversify and see some other types, clients that really want to grow their spirituality, that are looking for their next career move. I love working with college students, because it's like such a, like I was like just ripe and ready to set off to have the best life that you can. And when you start at that young, you have so much time to course correct and kind of like try new things, and it's just such a wonderful time in life. And I love that you just said like everything's on time. That was like a woof, like I feel that in a yes way.
Yeah. And it's something you got to just kind of accept. I mean, I've learned that with my business. I've learned that with my fitness. I've learned it with everything. But I always say, like, my varsity humans, like, we're the last to sometimes learn, because it's like, we're going to fix it. We're going to train more. We're going to eat better. We're going to study harder, or do it. Like, and it's like, well, go ahead and do all that stuff, wear yourself out. But like, the schedule's already made, so it doesn't matter. But it's still hard to like really conceptualize that. You said you like working with college student. I love hearing this. In your years of practice, have you seen your clients get younger? Like, this is more and more of a relevant conversation, so they're more open-minded, younger to therapy?
Absolutely. Yeah. And a lot of high school students too. I've seen some clients from high school into their college journey, like after college. It's just like amazing. They'll come in and out, depending on these milestones and crossroads, which is like the deepest honor to be able to
Yeah.
see them grow and they come back. Yes, definitely younger people are coming to therapy. I think it's so much less of a stigma, that word, in a negative way.
Stigmatized thing. Yeah.
Thank you. Yes. And more like the value, like you said, you go and you physically work out and you go to school to like train your brain. Why wouldn't you go train your emotions and learn what you need for your mood,
Yeah.
to help with feelings? We think up to 70,000 thoughts a day, and we're having that many feelings as well based on our thoughts. To learn how to self-soothe is such an important skill, and how to use our emotions to serve us, that we don't have to believe every feeling that we have, which took me a long time to learn,
Yeah.
Kristen. Just because I have this feeling, it doesn't mean it's true.
Right, right. Well, and I think you have to learn stuff. Like even as you're saying that, I'm like, duh, you need to think about this, as in me. Um, you have to, I think, learn it and then like kind of stay a student of the game, which we also know all the time. Like you have to, like I got really good about like fitness or studying or therapy, and then I kind of get out of it, and it's like, no, you got to go back in it and like relearn some of those skills. And even though like even like you just saying that, it's like you don't have to believe everything. Like that's relevant for me to hear right now. But it's like practice tidbits. You kind of said, and I want to lean into this, you had to kind of shift up your clients, because I don't know if people fully conceptualize that energy is everything and it's everywhere and it's kind of
Yes.
in us. And we have to be mindful of our space and our emotions. And even when we were together, you saw like we had this dinner experience where there was a
Yeah.
girl sitting across from us, and it was just a really weird exchange.
Yes, it was weird.
Yeah, and I just took on the energy, or perhaps created, either which way, and it really just shifted me. But it was such a good example of, I am some like an empathetic person, but like I'll just absorb it, and you have to manage that. Can you tell us a little bit about how you consciously, like I've seen like clear the throat, clear the head, how you kind of shift like some of these energies that we take on willingly or unwillingly, because
Yeah,
it's going to happen no matter
absolutely.
what.
Yeah, and definitely even using that example when we were at dinner, and the way you felt so compassionately towards that woman that had a different read on the situation,
Mhm.
where that's an indicator of where your feelings, like, it's a feeling that you were having, like, oh my gosh, like she misperceived what I meant and feeling bad, but that wasn't, you didn't do anything wrong
Right.
or bad. It's our energies combining with other humans energies have this synergistic effect, and hopefully that's more positive in your day-to-day life. But there are times when it won't be, because that woman I sense really had a trigger and vulnerability, around eating by herself, and doing that and feeling uncomfortable, that then she projected on to you, though you were complimenting her. And
Mhm.
so it just, and that happens in our lives, that will be the person sometime to have a triggered emotion, which is like an unhealed energetic attachment that we don't necessarily know is there until someone steps on it, and then we're
Mhm.
in reaction, we're feeling such a way. And though we don't have to necessarily believe that story, I think we do have to honor it and be gentle. Like you needed to just go gentle with yourself. And,
Mhm.
you had beautiful intentions to try to start up a conversation with someone next to us. And
Yeah.
that's not the space she was in. And, so it's again like working through our triggered emotions and asking ourselves, like, when have I felt this before? Like,
Mhm.
because I guarantee you felt this in a way. And like, what situation was that? And typically it's a younger part of ourselves. And to honor that part, like, hey, I'm sorry you went through that. I'm sorry you're feeling this way. Like, that person hurt you. And it's usually from a wounded place that we're triggered. And to take time to really be with that part of ourselves. And that's how the healing happens, to acknowledge that part of us. Does that resonate with you?
Oh, for sure. No, I mean, even I'm thinking as now, like, because so much, I think in that moment, I just felt so misunderstood.
Well,
And
you were. Yeah, it was
yeah,
true.
and it was so tricky. And I just felt so, I mean, it was clearly my energy as well, but I just felt so bad for her. Like the situation just felt, I don't know, just sad. And I mean, it was a matter of like maybe 25 words exchange, and it was kind of like the perfect thing said in the wrong way. And I don't know. It was just a funny thing, but I also think it was kind of funny that it happened with the three of us, and it's someone like you
Yes.
sitting there. Like, it was all just so serendipitous. So I really did think about like that moment. And for anyone that's listening, if there's something that kind of seems minuscule in your world, but it lingers in your mind, or like it really does shift you energetically, as Lisa's saying, I mean, I think it is meaningful, and there's probably larger pieces to the story. So I've had to like sit and meditate. And I don't know that I'm fully clear, but it's so much around misunderstanding. And it is triggering for me because like I'm not the person that likes to, or I don't think anybody should really have to explain themselves all the time.
Right.
But then like misunderstanding is like kind of the base of where so much of our society gets lost because we're miscommunicating with one another, and it's such a big deal.
And then we blame ourselves. Can I throw
Yeah.
out one more thing, Kristen?
Absolutely.
This was a new piece of awareness for me. I've been in this class by author Matt Kahn, Kahn. He's awesome. And last night, the session was about guilt. And the way he described it, Kristen, is coming up because I've never heard it put this way. He said, guilt, when we feel guilty, it can be it's the experience of someone else trying to hide their pain within me. And I think in that situation with that woman, you were feeling blame and as if you did something wrong. When that woman disowned, it was her pain being put off upon you. And he spoke about when we're aware, because this happens when there's been trauma, abuse, and even some misunderstandings where we know we have a clear intention of something loving and good. And I think back to that night, there was this pain that was trying to be hidden within you, and it's not yours. And he suggested we just release it. I release, even say out loud, I release feeling that sense of guilt and blame. This is not mine. And I just send it, to the nothingness from which it came. And I receive the healing, and I send healing to that person and love to that person to clear up the energetic attachment there. And I feel like that's more specific of what was going on that night.
Nailed it. I'm releasing all the guilt, sending it back out there. And you actually, you said that though. You're like, we sent her love and we sent her her thing. I mean, you were kind of on the ball, but I think the way you just said that is so beautifully said. And thank you for sharing it. And I think it's so relevant because I do know that so many of us are walking around with guilt for so many reasons and so many things. And it's an unnecessary bag to carry because as you just said, it's just not ours.
Exactly. And it's okay to release it. Let it go. I let that go.
We're trying. We're the strongest. So what other practices do you have where it's like clearing or releasing energy? Like if you are a teacher or a leader or a coach, or I have friends that I know all my other friends go to kind of to unload all their stuff. What's like a good mindful practice to like a quick energy release or clearing?
Well, definitely for me, I don't know that it's necessarily quick, but for me, like you, fitness, working out is a big one. Like for me, it's like play. When I go work out, I'm like, body, what do you want to do to play? And I kind of loosely structure to be mindful, like let's balance, let's not do back 4 days in a row. That's not wise. Let's like mix it up. But I approach fitness as like being out of my mind in a good way, just whatever, even if I'm angry about something, I will like curl biceps or punch a bag and think it's that issue, it's that person. I'm not hurting them, just to release from my body frustration, anger, that you can pair the thought you're having about someone or something and physically move it through your body in a movement with weights, with running, with whatever it is. And I find that to be so cathartic when I need to do that. And lately it's been less of that because I use meditation in the mornings to start my day, setting the alarm on my phone for say 5 minutes, 10 minutes to either sit in silence or to do a guided meditation on YouTube. If I feel like I need some more support, if I'm feeling distracted, like I might need some guidance with my thoughts to place them where I want them to go, which is like, this is a brand new day. I am so loved. I send love through my day and I expect wonderful things to happen. And so it depends, but I think it's a combination of meditation for me, definitely fitness and, and laughter. I'm curious, Kristen, for you, the value of laughter. I think there was a time I didn't laugh enough and now I feel like it's so important. How do you find laughter and humor in your life?
Well, my people are everything. Like my community, like my fitness is so about the fitness, but the community at the gym. I mean, it's my
Mhm.
varsity mission driven humans. I don't know if they're stockbrokers or therapists or stay at home moms, or like it's such an equalizer, and it's so cool in that way that we're like united by wanting to come and better ourselves for an hour a day
Yes.
every single day. And then you get a laugh about dumb stuff like who forgot their shoe or who ate someone's protein or like the in between. And I've learned this over the years and kind of having like breakdowns and breakthroughs with, I love lacrosse, and then I got injured. And so I went through like a whole depression #1. And then I was young and learned stuff, and then CrossFit and got taken off the team. And like, so all these ups and downs, I was like, I love the fitness, but through those breakdowns, I really learned it's my people. And it's like, all the non-serious moments where you're laughing and you're enjoying and you're playing, as I've gotten older, that I truthfully appreciate. And I always say like the gold is in the in between, because
Mm.
that's like your connection point. What's really up to laughter in your life?
For me, it's you mentioned I got a new kitten a couple of
Yeah.
months ago. Her name's Frankie, and I got her at 1 pound. Kristen, I've never had a kitten or a little baby animal, and they're just precious.
Oh my
And they
God, yeah.
roll around like chewing on their own tail, and like so clumsy and silly and playful. And now she's 4 pounds here on the desk. She likes
Yes.
sleeping under the lamp on my desk. It's the weirdest spot. There's cushions everywhere, but she likes the hard wooden desk. And
Of
I just
course.
laugh, seeing her play and grow up. And so she's been like a bright spot,
Yeah.
as well as just trying to laugh with friends, like try to just take things less seriously.
Yes.
It really is important. Like there's nothing serious going on here. Abraham Hicks talks about that. And I used to be like, what the fuck are you talking about? But it's like, it can bring some levity. Like there's nothing,
Yeah.
everything's held, like everything is being managed. We're so loved. And if I can just let go a bit of feeling like I need to be so on top of all of it, I can
Mhm.
have a smoother experience in guiding my life and living in that flow state, which I intend to do.
Amen. I think the animals are so huge, and it's really cool if you get around like babies or puppies, like baby humans, and then like
Yeah.
puppies or kittens, it's so cool to see how like their youthful playfulness is so similar, like human to animal. And
Yes.
it's such just like a living experience. I don't know. Again, it's such a connection point of how we are all just kind of like these living things and figuring it out, like all like on our own journey. And it's so
Yes.
beautiful that animals don't have to say anything, and like so much is communicated.
And they play, they trust. They have
Mhm.
such trust. I've noticed with my kitten, she just trusts there's going to be food, everything's fine. She is in bliss. And I'm like,
Yeah.
I'm going to be more like that. Like, universe, I'm your cat.
Yeah.
Like I'm the
Yeah.
universe's cat. I want to like play and eat. And, I really try to channel that, Kristen, and that energy of just more playfulness and trust.
Yes, I love it. My oldest dog, Cleo, I always say she's the woman I want to be, because she's so good. She's so friendly. She's so kind. But when Cleo's done, Cleo's done. I call her Cleonce. She knows boundaries. When she's ready to go to sleep, she goes to sleep. Like she just doesn't play. Like she is all business
Yeah.
and such a lover. But like she's just such a like good balance of turmeric and tequila. And she's an energy. Like she's a look. Like she's like it's just a thing. And so I don't know. I'm so with you. I think we can learn so much from animals, if we just kind of stop and be aware. And so much is happening again with nothing being said.
Exactly.
All right, so I do want to talk about this because this is applicable to my own world. We've talked about like healing and emotional stuff, but I still don't think there's very much conversation around how the mental can become physical.
Yeah.
Meaning, like if you're stressed and stuff, it can harbor in certain areas. And some of my listeners are super privy to like livers connected with anger and emotion, and some are not at all. Like that's still a newer conversation. I know my own personal journey with CrossFit. Initially, I was, we were training to go to the game, so we're overtraining. We know injury and overuse is going to happen, but I was starting to see things like a sore throat. I was chronically sick. Which is
Mm.
not normally my vibe. I was doing a bunch of like blood testing for my businesses because my clients were like huge into human optimization, and my liver enzymes were testing high. It's associated with anger. So I didn't really put together that my training environment was like so deeply toxic to me and my core
Yeah.
values, that was then in turn impacting my ability to perform physically. Like even now I'm not training near what I used to, and some of my numbers are getting close. So it says a lot how toxic that environment was. But and I know you're so good about your body and like the therapy and the mental and physical connect. Tell us a little bit more how, if you don't unpack some of the mental, it can turn physical.
Well, as you're speaking about this, Kristen, I'm thinking the word fear keeps
Mhm.
coming up. That I think, in life, there's just kind of a sense of fear that permeates through the media, through the news. I think even in a competitive environment like you
Mhm.
were in, there's even, I think, fear almost pushing like to succeed, to perform. Like you've invested so much in your mind, your body, financially, that it's almost like a fear if you don't, I'm imagining, do well, right? And that,
Yeah.
every day, like I think we feel a lot of that in our chest and our heart space and our stomach, digestion, and we need to eat every day. And I think our body can literally get twisted up by our emotions based upon our thoughts that we're thinking and what we believe is true. And when fear is really running the backdrop of our lives, of our mind, it sets the whole body to kind of not receive. Even you get more constricted, like when you feel anxious and tense, like I was feeling that earlier. I'm like, what is going on? Why are you so anxious? Like I felt like I was like constricting. And it's just because I was in a different routine this morning that I usually would have gone to the gym before our interview to kind of get into a relaxed state. And I changed that to go after, and it caused me some anxiety, that simple change. And I was like, you know what? It's okay. You're with
Yeah.
Kristen. Like, this is going to be cool.
Yeah.
And I kind of felt my body start to open and relax. So I think if, you listening and watching, to tune in if you're in fear or anxiety or worry about something, and what you might need to do to feel a deeper sense of trust. And for some of you, it might be doing more. And for others, I think it's doing a lot less, and even
Mhm.
allowing yourself to rest. Like I sense you probably weren't giving your body a lot of rest and
Mm-mm.
recovery during that time.
No.
And that's as important, as it is, I'm learning now, as it is the working out and the exertion, to
Yeah.
let the body receive the benefit of what you've done. And it takes a little time, right, for the body to receive that.
Absolutely. And just to wind down and even when I was resting my physically, like then my mind would spin. And it was a high pressure environment because we were extremely competitive and we had a bunch of really strong mentally and physically females there. I mean, like I was training
Yeah,
with people that I would potentially go to the games with. So
that's
every
awesome.
day, but
Yeah.
but really when I sit back, it wasn't even so much that pressure. Like I'm pretty good with that. After, multiple years, it does start to chip at you. But it was more as I started to learn about my core values and things that were important to me, and like being so involved in a situation that were so deeply outside of my core values, I felt fear in being associated with things and being misunderstood and and like when these aren't
Okay.
my things and this isn't my stuff. And here I'm in the mix of it. And as a branding professional, it's not my brand. Like this is not who I am.
Yeah,
And I think that more than anything ate my soul. And I didn't really get it and I couldn't really like unpack it correctly until I fully got away from it.
I bet,
Yeah,
because you were
and then
too in it.
I was way too in it. And that would be my suggestion. I would love to hear your professional advice. If you sometimes you can't get out of it. Like you're in situations where you're just and you don't even know you're in it. But my advice to anyone, particularly in fitness, is take that recovery, take that break, but really try and get out of an environment you're in, even if you don't think the environment's the problem and the people, just get some space.
Yeah.
Even if it's a couple days. It took me probably a couple years, but
Yeah.
just to get out and just get some clarity. And I think that comes through just taking space.
Well, I think too, when you just said core values, that's really significant,
Mhm.
Kristen, because it's something I've started to look at. Like, what are my core values? I hadn't really thought of life in that way. And what do I do and who am I with that aligns with my core values, and
Mhm.
who and what doesn't, and what changes do I need to make and do I want to make? Because sometimes there might be a change that's healthy for us to make, but we're not ready to do it. And that's
Yeah.
okay. Just to even have that awareness, like I'm not ready to take that step, but I see it. Like I see that as a possibility. And
Yeah.
for me, it's really knowing your values, which I learned for me are centered around generosity,
Mhm.
kindness, success, and happiness is one that I've added. I used to not think that that was a legit core value, but it is, because when we flow from more happiness, our bodies are less stressed and they actually perform, our bodies perform like we want them to versus not. And so I'm curious, like your core values.
Yeah, well, it's funny you bring this up. I've dove pretty heavy into it because, like I said, because of my intentional journey, but also because of my work, I've done so much in human optimization, from
Yeah.
nutrition training, brain mapping, blood testing, whatever. And my one piece that I would recommend to anyone that's super accessible is core values. And I've done, and there's a bunch of free tests out there, but I actually just loaded one up on my Instagram. It's like CGI. It's core values. It's a key preference indicator. It's
Okay.
$35. It's super inexpensive. It's pretty quick. It's been a while. I'm gonna redo it. I did it like 6 or 7 years ago, and I paid a coach a lot of money to like go
Oh
through and break
yeah.
it down. Super worthwhile. But you can go in there, take the test. Like I said, it's $35. It's a load of intel, and it breaks down what your core values are. And when I initially did it, I was honesty, independence, and
Mm,
creativity. So even just an understanding that, and again, running theme of misunderstanding, I was so misunderstood in what was important to me. And as I kind of learned that, and then I saw pieces of my life, like transparency and honesty is very critical for
yeah.
me. And when I feel like something doesn't, like you're lying or whatever, and I don't need to know everything, because I'm also like I don't like drama. So we don't need to know all the tea, but don't lie about it. Like
Yes. Yeah.
just don't, just do you. I don't really, I'm so laid back in like what you want to do, who you want to do, whatever.
You're so accepting.
Yeah, because I don't really care, and not in a dismissive way. It's just like all good, but don't make it what it's not. And that was a
Yeah.
lot of my training environment. And then independence, which is
Mm.
deeply shown up in as an entrepreneur in my personal world, like so many angles. But creativity was the one that threw me, and that's what really helped guide my professional journey of like, of course I love the branding and the creating the t-shirts and all that. So I've really tried to focus that as I've gotten older, that because that's what brings me the joy, like the laughter, and teeing that in. I'd be super, if you do yours, let me know, because I'd be super curious what the test
Okay.
says.
Yeah.
It's good.
Cool.
Yeah, you should do
Cool.
it's in my
And it's on your Instagram.
it's on my Instagram. I can't remember the main, it's run, like I have it set up through KO Alliance. But it's through a professional company that does these sort of like core value tests. And it's the best one that I found.
Okay, that's
For
excellent.
Yeah, price point, amount of intel you get back. But yeah, if you do it, let me know. I think
I will.
and certain companies label different core values like differently, but generosity I think is very much a point for you. And just being like an empathetic leader is like what I want to say, and I think that's so powerful.
It is. And generosity, I've learned, it doesn't mean you're just giving money away. It means that like you're just like you pick up, like I'll pick up trash in
Yeah.
certain places when I feel led, or there's a homeless man, James, down the street, and it's hot as fuck here in New Orleans right now.
Yes.
And I'll buy him a water when I go in the
Yeah.
grocery and give it to him. Like just simple things, that you can look out to do, even just saying hello and really listening,
Yeah.
using the checkout clerk's name. Like generosity to me, there's so many little ways that are free, or like cost a couple bucks to really
Yeah.
have great impact in a
Well,
positive sense.
I was gonna say the ripple effect of that, like you
Yeah.
change. I mean, I always try and think of like stories. Like in college, I remember there was this one time where you're in Target and you're broke in college, and one of my friends went to buy like a CD, and the girl in front of her paid for her
Wow.
groceries, and
That's amazing.
yeah, 25 years later or whatever, I think of that story, and it's like how something gets so small you can truthfully change someone's day, and then other people are telling that story 25 years
Still
later.
25 years later, like that changes lives.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yeah. Have you had a story or a situation like that really inspired? I mean, it sounds like it's in your core and it's in your heart 100%, but has there been some sort of major generous thing or even a small gesture that was super impactful?
Yeah, there's even when I went out to Los Angeles 8 years ago this month in August, and I was renting a car from this gentleman that rented cars kind of privately. He gave me a really good deal for years, and I was going to go buy a Fiat because it was super affordable. It wasn't like what I really wanted, but that day Edmund called and he was like, I got this new BMW. Like you look great in it. I was like, Edmund, I
Yes.
can't afford that. I'm buying a Fiat. He's like, you are not buying a Fiat. He's like, what do you want to pay? And it was like $200 a month. He sold me that car, that beautiful
What?
BMW for $200 a month. I'm about to pay
Yes.
him off, but it's like, what a gift. Like I didn't
Yeah.
expect Kristen at all. I was like, I was like, Edmund, come on. Like, and he was like, no, I want to help you.
Yeah.
But
Oh,
people, I find just kindness, like even smaller things, just people at the Pep Boys the other day, like giving me a discount. They're like, you were so easy the other day when we were busy and you were patient. And I was like, it's no big deal. They're like, no, we're
yeah.
going to give you like 20% off. And I was like, oh my God, thank you. So
Yeah.
just these things happen.
Well, I mean, or do they? And this is a perfect transition. Let's talk
Okay.
about quantum physics. I want to read your book title really quick. The
Okay.
Cryon Effect: Healing Our Core Wounds Through Astrology, Empathy, and Self-Forgiveness. And it's funny on the cover, it looks like a K with an O. I think it's a key, but when
Yeah,
I saw it, it looked like KO because I'm a myopic human being apparently. But anyways, I thought it was so cool. But I want to talk about this because like everything is energy, and in my
it
world, I
is.
say I truthfully believe like good things happen to good people,
Yes,
and obviously you're not giving out things and doing this so you get good karma in return, like you're just doing it, but like that energy swirl, like in
it
your
is.
scientific,
Yes.
more polished terms, like tell me about this from your perspective.
No, Kristen, I love this conversation because like it just happens or does it. Like I've been starting like universe, like to kind of play with the universe. I want the best of everything. Like you surprise and delight me, you bring me things, and I like just like with money, with love, with just like blow the doors down. Like I'm open to receive, and I've gotten some like financial deposits I didn't expect in the last couple
Yes.
days, and just look, I feel happier. I just feel happier and more open. And that energy, since we are an energy being, we have our physical body, but think about it, when you die a physical death, there's still this energy, this essence that
Mhm.
people report still feeling, lights going on and off, like the departed loved ones, they've just let go of their physical body, not their energetic
Mhm.
body. And so we're more of that energy than we see, and we can use that in our lives because that is source to align with universal intelligence. And each day I say I place my mind in harmony with the mind of universal intelligence, like lead me, guide me, show me, do it for me, to just and trust the instincts and impulses you have are leading you to your happiness and what you most want for your life, and to co-create with the universe in that way. How do
Well,
you see it?
I love that. um I guess a multitude of ways. Like when I get good about, um, I think my training, I'm more intuitive. It's like one good decision leads to the other. So if I'm training, I'm eating better, I'm sleeping better, you're a little more conscious. And so I'm more connected to my body and how I feel, mostly because I'm like, how's my workout going to go? I got to do this, whatever. But then it's like, oh, well, you actually do feel better when you're, a little less tequila, a little more sleep, a little more,
Right. Right.
no trash reality TV before bed. Like there's certain things. So like, of course it makes sense. You feel better. But when I really try to be still, and the universe, I feel like just F's with me all the days because like a license plate will be in front of me that says be still, like literally.
Oh my gosh, I love it.
Yeah. And it's like literal, like you have to kick me in the head. And I think that's just part of my dense genetics. We'll blame that. But
Maybe it's the universe just loving on you. Like
yeah,
you're
well,
in alignment. I think when you see that, for sure.
thank you. And yes, I received and I hear that and I agree because it's awareness and it's so obvious. So I think when you can be still and just pay attention, like it's so funny, like the signs and the things. I've been seeing three crows. I have this spirit animal book where you can look up
Mm,
certain animals come through. This is really random, but I caught a black widow in my kitchen the other day and it's happened 3 times in my life. I know. And when you look up, I can't remember what it
whoa.
is, but it's about like powerful and shift, and just being back in fitness has kind of been my vehicle to get
Yeah.
back in alignment with my authentic self.
Yes.
So I don't know if I even answered that question, but I think usually when you're making good decisions, it's easier to be still, and then you can see and connect more with aligning, but like the arrows in the forest that are kind of pointing you in the right direction. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and you're speaking about how to get there and stay there. For you, it's through that doorway of fitness and how that
Yes.
just inspires you, delights you to take good care of yourself, and things
Mhm.
flow from that place. And for me, it's like starting with an intention in the morning, for just really believing that meditation's going to work. I did it as an
Okay.
experiment a few years ago, and my life started to change for the better. So now it's like a permanent part, even if it's just like 2 minutes. Ideally it's longer, but even with the
Yeah.
shortest time I give to say thank you, be have appreciation and gratitude. And then for me, working out like is like just like a delight. I do the best I can. I've worked through lots of injuries in my life when I was younger, and pushed it from that sense of like, you just got to do this, not like the body being kind of like, hold up, we don't want to do this, or like increasing mileage too fast. So I've stopped doing that, and more of like, I love weights. I love, combining sound knowledge and technology of what we know helps the body with like what feels good emotionally.
Okay.
And that's how I stay in alignment, and
Are,
just kind of flow from there.
do you do like sound baths and whatnot?
I do more of that when I'm in California because they're
Okay.
more offered. Um,
Yeah.
in New Orleans. So I'm sure I just don't know about the ones here because there has been more of that here. Do you do a lot of that?
I've done a few of them. Yeah. So it's cool. Like a lot of my friends, like my fitness humans, and then even like my high school friends, you have like your different crews, my
Yeah.
podcast crew, are really good about like yoga and mindfulness core values. One of my friends does a
Okay.
lot in change management, and we've done some business coaching together. Shout out to Jess. But other friends, we've done a couple sound baths. It's really cool. And I feel like I don't intentionally like seek them out, but then it's like, oh, my friend, like, let's go do it. And it's kind of like it's right on time. I'm like, oh, I actually
Yes, right
really
on time.
needed this.
Yeah. That's how it's
Yeah.
happened for me too. A friend being like, let's go to the sound bath. And I'm like, okay, but I don't
Yeah.
know that I've necessarily done so much of that if it's just me looking for it. But if somebody, like you said, it's like, come on, let's go. I'm like, all right.
Yeah. Well, it's great you have good people. What do you do when you're such a phenomenal, well, human, but therapist? Who do you go to for therapy? Like, how do you find the right person?
Since I worked with Marilyn when I was younger in the beginning of the show in my 20s, I had one other therapist I didn't really vibe with.
Okay.
And I stopped going, and I don't remember if I told her as much, like if I didn't feel like this was a good fit, but she didn't feel right. And then a few years ago, I found a new coach who's amazing, Prim Glidden, and she's more of like a law of attraction manifestation coach. So it's different than the deep healing that I did from family wounding when I was
Mhm.
younger to now it's like telling the new story of my life. Like she's really great at crafting what is the life you want to live and who do you need to become to occupy that life. So it was more future forward and less like looking back and less kind of coddling my emotions, which sometimes I need.
Okay.
I've learned to do that for myself and more about Lisa, you are the wise woman.
Mhm.
You can care, you can speak to that younger part of yourself that's hurt, that needs to hear more tender things, but like you are powerful, you are strong. So she helped me develop that muscle, which I think was a little underdeveloped in me. And I think even in therapy, Kristen, I know my training was like, let's go back to the source, let's go back to the original wound, which my book, The Chiron Effect, talks a lot about, but in a way of like, who do you want to grow into and become? Because we don't want to stay lost in the old
Right.
story. I've learned we really want to start laying down the tracks for the new life we haven't lived yet so we can start. Like even you go to get a coffee at the coffee shop, like what would a New York Times best-selling author, how would they drink their coffee? And just even that position in your mind, like, oh, how would I say this? Like I kind of stand up taller,
Mhm.
it gives you a whole different way to move through your day, imagining like, what if I was that blah, blah, blah? Like, how would I speak to this person? And it can be really fun to take the time out to do that each week and see what starts to happen.
I love that. And that's so funny that we're having this conversation because I've so like as you heard me talking about the old gym situation, like consciously living like it's done. We got to unpack it, unload it, like let it go, and
Yeah.
then lean into like this mindset of who do we really want to be here? Like what do we really want to be like? Or New York Times, like how do they do like the little details? And it's so funny how like when your mind starts to flick that way, like the mind changes and the body follows. And it's
It
really
does. You
it's
can feel it.
crazy. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Wait,
you
so
can
tell
feel it.
us a little bit more about the Cryon effect. What is that? What is Cryon? Planet
So
Cryon
so yeah, so okay, Chiron,
or
CHI.
Chiron? Okay, here we
It's
go.
a it's okay, CHIRON. It's a planet in astronomy between Saturn and Uranus, which is reflected in astrology in your birth chart. Like you are, Kristen, what's your sign?
I'm a Libra. I'm right
You're a
on the
Libra.
cusp. I'm the 21st. So I'm the day before Scorpio.
Okay, you're a Libra and I'm a Gemini sun, but your Chiron is going to be in a different sign than your sun
Okay.
sign. So, say if Chiron, if that planet is in Aries, for example, that speaks to a wounding or a vulnerability in your sense of value and worth. And this is something kind of more hidden about your personality. Chiron speaks to the parts of ourselves that we feel ashamed of, embarrassed, like you might really work so hard to be successful and perceived well and make a lot of money, but inside you never feel like you're good enough. And
Mhm.
that causes the health problems we referenced earlier. That never good enough, that like you're always performing, you're type A and stressed out. and not taking Chiron and Virgo has to do with not taking care of your physical health and its associated routines. So I spent 3.5 years researching, writing this book to help you understand where some of your maladaptive patterns of thought come from, like when you're not believing in yourself, where you're judging yourself, where you're limiting yourself by what you think is true for you, and how to start to change that in a practical sense, like takeaway steps that you can use today and affirmations that you can start to replace your negative and fear-based thoughts with. So it's really comprehensive in that way.
I love it. I'm so excited to like really dig in, and it's right on
Yeah.
time. So I'll report back like how that journey goes specifically with the book.
Yeah, I'll send you a copy.
Yeah,
so
no,
you can
I'm happy to buy it. No, I think it's really important that we intentionally purchase from one another. I
That's
appreciate you,
thoughtful.
but yeah,
Thank
no,
you.
it's really important. But I'm super curious coming. This is what I love, like kind of like the juxtaposition, even though it's not like turmeric and tequila, where you've got like this, trained, intentional, like collegiate certified background. And then we've got like astrology where it's still
Yeah.
science, but it's kind of like a lot of people consider it like woo. How
Yeah.
did you come from this like formal educational background and then lean more into like astrology, science, woo? And like, I feel like you're just such a good balance between the science, metaphysics, quantum physics, and then just belief, gut energy, the less tangible, proven situations.
Thank you. I was so steeped in academics for most of my life and really loved that. But I saw that there's a shortcoming that
Mhm.
even being a therapist for 20 years and being in therapy for almost that long, and I still was getting depressed. I was still having anxiety that felt like this is not healthy levels. Like, what the fuck is going on, universe? Like, if I can't, if I'm still falling into these feelings, like, how am I going to help clients go further? And I really turned to meditation. Like, what is going on? Have I missed a stone that I haven't picked up and looked under? And I just started to hear Chiron. And I was like, universe,
Oh.
are you kidding? Like, I learned in graduate school, Carl Jung wrote about Chiron as the wounded healer archetype. I was like, it's really not that exciting, universe. Like, don't you have something better? Like, and but when something keeps coming up in your
Yeah.
life, like you turn on the radio and somebody's talking about it, or you flip on a podcast and it's the episode,
Yeah.
or like you go to the bookstore and there's, the word, and that started to happen. So I was like, okay, got it. I know enough. The universe wants me to learn about Chiron. And when I started to understand, it's kind of these hidden beliefs and thoughts that we have, this pattern that it's our orbit. Like, that's what the Chiron effect is. We're at the effect of our beliefs. We're at the effect of our routines that we habituate people, places, and things every day. And it's typically the same. And that's awesome if you're loving your life 1000%, but most of us aren't. So what areas can we orbit a higher and new frequency? And I believe it's through understanding this Chiron placement where you can be like, aha, like this is my, instead of feeling like I'm less than or not good enough, but doing all this shit to compensate, but still coming back to like, oh my God, I'm still not good enough. And you never feel satisfied, like to really heal, that younger part of you, typically that needs to know she's just fine if you never do a damn thing again. It's like how to source value and worth, for example, from where it's permanent rather temporary.
Well, boom. I'm glad this is recorded so everyone can re-listen, myself included, re-listen to that. I think it's amazing when you do like the traditional path of everything you think you're supposed to do. And then there's one thing kind of switching you onto like this completely different path, even though it's not different. And in that little segue, like changes everything. And
yeah. I was surprised because
Yeah, I'm
astrology is not
sure.
where I thought to look. I understood it as a symbolic language, which it really is in such a beautiful way. And to me, it shows where we can grow and change.
Mhm.
We're not dictated by our chart, in my perspective. It's like, what do you want to keep about yourself? And what do I want to, maximize, enhance, optimize, whatever words you want to use.
And what a beautiful conversation to continue to have as we get older, because I think even when you're aware and you're intentional about like continuous evolution, it still has to be a practice and a mindset. And again, my fitness journey is kind of like my through line, but like I found myself saying like I would never count macros. I would never do this. It's too like structured for my free
Right,
personality.
right.
And then I was like, okay, no, we can't be 40, 41 saying all the things we're never going to do. So I
Okay.
started doing it. I took like a before and after picture, like in a swimsuit, like stuff I would just never do.
Yeah.
And it was just so good to like kick myself out of the box and be like, you actually like, I actually enjoy doing this now. And I see like, you know, switching up the input to get a different output. But I like that you had gone through all this, you know, intentional like schooling journey. And then you were still, you know, you were an older person at that point, not even seeing the age, like you'd had all this
Yeah, for real.
experience.
43,
Yeah, but
40, no, 45.
you were still open to like pivoting and changing. I think we lose that
Yeah.
as we get older, and that is like kryptonite. Like I think that kills it away. How did you like? Did you have practice, or was that your personality? Like what kept you open minded to maybe changing something, even though you had all this validation and doing this a certain way?
Well, you're really nailing it. It's about being flexible, and for me, workouts, like I do a lot of balance exercises now, or it might be light weights, but I'm on an upside down Busu, which is unstable, and like doing all kinds of movements, including now with weights. And that's a metaphor for me to always want to have my balance and being willing to try new things. Like when I'm not willing to try something new, I feel like I've come to the end of, I don't know, like growing. Like there's
Yeah.
always something new. There's always something different to try that might actually make you happier and healthier and have a better life. So I just wanted to lean in to something new and different for me. And it's helped so much and helped others.
Yeah. Well, how it changes the trajectory. And you think if I always try and think like if I ever kind of feel like I'm getting complacent or whatever, I think about something that I would not have in my life had I not tried something new.
Oh, I
CrossFit,
like that.
gluten free.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you think about something not in your life because you did one small change, I think that motivates you to stay open minded and just try it. Even if you have not, I mean, counting macros is so far from I'm not a math person. I'm not like stringent, confined. Like it's so opposite of my self, but yet now I'm doing it and I like it. So it's like, and I've gotten so much intel about fueling and like manipulating my fueling for workouts and blah, blah, blah. But it's like, had I not just been had one slight open-mindedness to this one switch, everything else would not have changed.
And I think that's such a beautiful point to make, that when we go through our fear, that's when we have courage. Because I've been scared to do a lot of the things I've done. It's not like it's all bells and whistles. It's like, holy shit, like, I don't know. And, oh, like maybe that's going to hurt, be
Yeah.
it physically or emotionally. But when you step through and do it anyway, all the things you said really do open up.
Yeah. And I think you do kind of heal in some way, or you get on the
Mhm.
path to like seek that healing. What and I'm curious because I know you're in New Orleans. How do you balance like the fun, the party with the, because I know you train and you're a hard
Yeah.
worker, you're an entrepreneur, you got your practice, but you're a fun human. Like you get out there, you have fun,
Thank
like
you.
you are
Yes.
joyful. How do you work that into your world?
I really do it by planning, Kristen, and trying to have as much balance. And there are times in New Orleans where there's not a lot of balance, like Mardi Gras or Jazz Fest. And
Yes.
there's something every day that I actually want to do, not that I have to do it. So I just plan. I adjust clients, I adjust my workouts. I'll, if I eat super shitty, for a day or two, I'm going to eat really clean for the next few and just, find balance and let it be okay. Like I want to live a happy life. And I used to not let myself, I used to be more restricted. And I think I know I look better now and I'm more fit now
Mhm.
from just allowing balance and, planning.
I'm here for it. I know that's kind of like the macros. I'm like, I don't need to plan, but it's like the more you put a little more structure in, you're not going to
Yeah.
die. This for me,
No.
but it's a piece of the puzzle.
It is.
Just because we're on record, I really am curious because you're a master manifester. What is it you want? I know you want abundance and these things, but what are you manifesting? Unless it's super personal, but
Yeah.
anything you want to share, I think it's good when we talk about it and put it out there. I'm curious what you aspire to do or grow to or anything like that.
Kristen, I definitely, and we talked about this face to face. I intend to be in a beautiful romantic relationship.
Mhm.
I intend to get married. And I've been asking myself, like, how else do you need to become, a good wife and partner? And it's from, I think, being really clear about my values, going back to core values and letting that, be a piece of the puzzle when I meet someone and not just attraction, like, do our values line up and what
Mhm.
we want out of life? and just having fun along the way, enjoying my singleness, even because it's something I used to judge myself for, versus like, look at the freedom, look at what I've gotten to do, and the people I've met, and just like what my singleness has allowed me to go do and be in life, and really appreciate that and see it as a positive. Like, I've really gotten to know myself, and I think relationships wouldn't have gone well without the awareness I have of myself today. So I feel like you said, all in time, like I really believe that, especially in this area for me, like, just trusting in the timing of things and just being a happy person.
I love it. One, what's so powerful, and if you saw Lisa in life, she is a petite human, and it's so funny because the packaging is so small, but she's a force. Like energy and the kindness, and there's like a tangible warmth about you that's just so wonderful. And I love that you are working with people, and you're kind of like on the front lines of healing and people that want to better themselves. So like those are going to be our future leaders. So I love that there's people like you working with our leaders and guiding that, because I think that's where we have hope in society as a whole. And I know you recognize that power and the responsibility in it, and that makes it even more special.
Thank you. Yes, absolutely. And I look forward, Kristen, to diving more and having you on All Things Therapy to talk more about the things we've talked about, and like how you contribute too in your way.
I would be more than happy to. I have a million more questions, but I want to be sensitive of time. Tell us where we find you, the book, anything that's coming up, like give us the deets on how we get to you.
Sure. The best way is through my website, which is NOLA Therapy. It stands for New Orleans, Los Angeles Therapy.com. I'm also at NOLA Therapy on Instagram, YouTube, and Facebook. I would love to connect there. And my book is available everywhere, including Barnes & Noble, brick and mortar stores, Amazon, Walmart.com even. I saw it. I was like, oh my gosh, I'm in Walmart. That's amazing.
That's huge. Congratulations.
The online Walmart. And I'd love a review if people would be so kind as to write the reviews of my book, because I really want it to be helpful and practical. I love practical wisdom, Kristen, like I know you do, like things I can take and run with, not just theoretical. There's some of that, but there's a lot of practical, like how can I start something today for myself, to love myself more, 100%. To be more authentic. So yeah, NOLA Therapy.
I love it. And if you're someone that's like newer to therapy, or you're super experienced, Lisa does such a wonderful job of merging those worlds and finding kind of like that turmeric and tequila balance, where you can kind of work with anyone. So it's a really, I think you're a phenomenal entry point, and you're also phenomenal for people that are super experienced in therapy. So if you're out there and you're listening and you're kind of somewhere in between that, which is really everybody, ping Lisa, see what she has going on. And Lisa, if you do your core values, I'll read the book and maybe we'll reconnect and talk about both.
Oh, that sounds excellent.
Yeah, I think it's really, I mean, just because like I know how you are,
excellent.
You'll get a kick out of it. So let's definitely plan to reconnect.
I love you.
All right. Love you. Keep crushing. We'll see you soon.
Thank you for joining Turmeric and Tequila with your host, Kristen Olson. Tune in next time, and don't forget to subscribe on Apple, Google Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen.